This conversation is either going to be niche clarifying or marketing my niche. And
Okay.
I'm hoping it's not marketing my niche, but we'll see. Since we last talked, so much has happened. I have a fuller website. I'm focused on those ambitious professionals who are struggling with anxiety at work, specifically panic disorder or performance anxiety, and helping them overcome that so they can feel more confident at work and thrive at work. Kind of
Yeah.
stuff at you. I know a lot of information is not really. That's where I feel like niche clarity might end up coming in, because I find myself throwing too many words when I'm networking. Uh,
Okay.
so I let's talk marketing strategies. I have a website, check.
Okay.
The networking, doing it. Have part of I don't know if you remember Eric Axel from the Abundance Group as well, but he and I are
Hmm.
friends, hanging out, have a group of therapists we hang out with and have a group chat with, and then
Love
both
it.
he and I are in an invite only, private pay, full fee networking group uh,
Awesome.
for city professionals. And so networking. So we got that.
Hmm.
I'm doing Google Ads. Taught myself some important stuff with that. Running those low effort, seeing kind of like with just a small dosing of some keywords, just sort of seeing what goes and slowly building it.
Hmm.
I have psychology today, and Instagram is where I need help.
Okay.
And I feel like the two are tied, because when I go to network and I say performance anxiety, I have too much I have to say about it, that it doesn't
Okay.
clear and specific. I end up saying not the bedroom type, the boardroom,
Hmm.
right? That right there means I'm not, in my mind, that right there means I'm not being clear enough. Um,
I want to challenge that. I want to challenge that because in my mind, I'm never going to forget who you work with if you say it just like that.
with the border, not the boardroom, not the bedroom.
Hmm.
Okay, I didn't think about it that way. See, this is the Allison honesty I needed. Um, I feel like I always then have to. This is actually, I'm now framing this differently. I'm saying out loud that I am responding to some internal feelings that are popping up of clarity, and I feel like am speaking more because of the internal stuff that's coming up. So here I am saying, I feel like I have to say that this is fear of speaking in front of others, fear of public speaking, getting in front of a meeting and having more responsibility and having to speak to the group, the heart rate pumping before you ask a question in a meeting, those types of performance anxiety instances. But maybe that challenge that you gave me is less about it not being clear and more about my own internal stuff. And also at the same time, it being helpful because the networking conversation probably led to tell me more.
Hmm. Yeah, because they're going to be like, oh, tell me more. I mean, like, that's just natural.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe I am being clear then.
Yeah. I think you're being clear. Um, but I'm wondering, what is it about your niche that's making you think you're not clear? Like, what other internal stuff is going on?
When I go into Instagram, I've always heard like niche down, right? And so feeling like having an Instagram that's focused on just one of those specialties feels like the smarter choice based on everything I've heard, rather than focusing on them all. Rather than focusing on, I have like up, if we go pillars, right? If we go that, no, I hate that term, but if we go that route, like here's professionals, here's panic, here's performance anxiety.
Hmm.
And I just sort of talk about them all. Or having one. So I think maybe we are going to come to the marketing part of the discussion rather than the niche clarity, which is great.
And in quick time, 5 minutes.
I love.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way I'm thinking of it is if you frame it as performance anxiety for professionals, on your Instagram, like you can talk about the panic because that comes up for them.
Yep.
Um,
You're giving a speech and suddenly panic hits.
yeah, yeah. You've got to ask a question or you need to talk to your boss about something and like you're sweating. You
Hmm.
have a lot of opportunities to talk about how that performance anxiety and that panic coalesce.
Mhm.
And the times when you're not panicking, but it's like really uncomfortable. You're having a hard time like figuring out where to come in on the conversation or Um, yeah, what like feeling so driven to make sure it's such a value add because you have so much insecurity underlying all of it.
Yes. Yeah. Um, okay. So what would be best practice? Would it be focusing in on just one of those?
I
Focusing
think
in
they
on
all
one
like,
and bring in, sprinkle the others?
yeah, because they're all part of it. Like you can't talk
Mhm.
about performance anxiety for professionals without talking about panic,
Yeah.
because it's going to be a part of it for them.
Excellent. Do I get more specific than actually, hold on, I'm gonna hold on to that thought for just one second. For you to help me bookmark it, I'm just gonna say I was gonna get more specific about the person, but
Mhm.
want that bookmark that for one second.
Yeah.
I think one of the things about about panic that is really connected for me is I had my first panic attack on a really important job interview, imposed importance of this job interview.
Mhm.
First job out of college before going to grad school. I was like, oh my God, this is it. And had a full-on panic attack that during the interview that completely meant I wasn't functional.
Yeah. Oh, poor baby Chris.
I know. But he looks on himself so kindly now and
Good.
smile when he talks about it. I didn't even know it was a panic attack at the time. But I feel like that part of the story is just like that part of the niche that's like really important. Um, yeah, why did I bring that up? Just to, I guess just add on to more to what we're saying that like it's really
Mhm.
important that you can't forget that piece.
Right.
Um,
Right. Because I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said, I didn't know it was a panic attack. Because your people might not either. So if you frame it as performance anxiety, like they know what that means.
yeah.
That's language they understand. And then you describe the panic, and maybe you name the panic, sometimes panic, but you're describing their situation and their experience on your Instagram, and they can't help but be like, yes, that's it.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got a clear niche, is what I'm hearing.
Hmm.
Um, what about person? So I like to describe them as they're ambitious, driven, career driven. I don't use all these words all the time. These are just a few that I think are really important to them and competitive sometimes. That's a little bit sprinkle of salt, really. I don't want to overdo the competitive aspect. They are competitive.
Hmm.
They know they're competitive. Um, is an ideal client, right?
Yeah.
That's my ideal. Do I need to get more specific, like lawyers, engineers, not all of the professions, obviously. I'm not going to have a list of 10 because then you're
Hmm.
one. Or is that enough? That's like they know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they know who they are. Like you could give examples. You could
Mhm.
use like Josh, who's a lawyer who rarely has to litigate, but when he does,
Mm.
dot dot dot, you know. So you could give examples of specific professions if it flows.
Okay.
And yeah, but I think they know them like they know they're professionals. Um, they might not know it's panic, they know it's performance. And I
Excellent.
think like having your Instagram bio reflect what you say in networking, like
Mhm.
performance anxiety therapist for the bedroom or for the boardroom, not the bedroom. You know, like
Mhm.
something like that that's catchy that helps them understand exactly what you do just in your bio.
Excellent. I'm glad you're giving me that nugget because reflecting that nugget back because I my bio feels a little bit boring right now, and I think that will spice it up in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, there we go, spicing it up.
There we go.
Um, awesome. Okay. Let's talk Instagram strategy then.
Mhm.
Uh, I hate trends. I think my people hate trends.
Okay.
I can't stand hearing the same audio more than twice.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's done really well, and those if for those people that are doing it well, I follow and will like them.
Mhm.
Most of the content, though, I just see us all sort of repeating the same thing over and over
Yeah.
again. and
Mm-hmm.
not actually adding anything to it, and it gets really frustrating. And I also have made those, and I feel fine making them. They just don't feel authentic to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like really, and also I don't think my audience really wants to, they want the more motivational driven content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my self-reflection leads me to sort of like three main strengths that I have when I'm working with my audience. And it's the empathy for their pain points, right? We all have the empathy, right? The relatable content, the being able to um, acknowledge a scenario and a pain point, and
Mm-hmm.
empathize with it. Another is sort of like the mindset insight shifts, and another is more hopeful, optimistic content,
Mm-hmm.
outcome-based content. This is what you want life to look like. Um, so I kind of almost also think of that as problem solution and the success, right? It's like if you're empathizing with the problem and you're talking about the solution being sort of like some shifts, just a nugget of the solution, right? It's not the whole solution,
Mm-hmm.
not therapy in and of itself. Um, and then the outcome sort of being more like hopeful content. I think they probably really connect with that.
Yeah.
Um, what am I missing? Is
I
that
think
enough?
it depends on how it's delivered. Like, is it education? Is it all educational? Is it sometimes entertaining? Is it like, how are you grabbing their attention and keeping it? Do your
Mm,
people want somebody who's like talking head videos all the time, or do they want some goofiness in there? Yeah, just figuring out the delivery piece.
okay, I think that's gonna have to come through action and figuring out what they like. I can reflect on what I like to follow, and some of that is it's a mix really of like some good B-roll
Hmm.
reels uh that have a really emotional, poignant point.
Hmm.
And then some podcast style. I don't really want to do the podcast style, maybe just like this.
Hmm.
Obviously, you wouldn't be on the other end, but it would just be me talking to the camera like this, right?
Yeah.
They do some of the people I like following, they do the podcast style, motivational content.
And so you could also remix, like
Yep.
if there's like a business leader or somebody like that, um, put their stuff on at the end, say a little something. Like it doesn't,
Mhm.
it could even just be a look. But with remixes, you have to change something.
Yeah.
And that could also just be words. You could put some words on it, like a title or something like that.
Mhm.
I've seen some people do who work specifically with business owners do really well with that kind of content because it's the kind of stuff that they're already consuming. Um,
Good point.
yeah.
Excellent. Um, Yeah, so talking head rolls, B-roll, and maybe some silly, goofy, but also some personal mixed in there with I think I'll also have some carousels. Um,
Mhm.
kind
Yeah.
of think just sort of at this point, carousels are being pushed. You kind of almost have to suck it up and do some carousels. I don't
Hmm.
play like the constant educational carousel.
Hmm.
Yes, they're useful and I want to do them, but I don't want to I don't want that to be my one bag of tricks when it comes to carousels, right? I'm almost thinking
Yeah.
Friday, a dump of photos if I went on a trip or something, and after the trip when I'm back and I want to share something personal, just like here's a little
Mhm.
nugget of like life.
Yeah. And I think storytelling is a really good way to use
Hmm,
carousels too, so that they're less boring.
excellent. And then yeah, so jumping off the storytelling, that also feeds back into the empathy and the relatability factor, the pain points that they're experiencing and telling a story that relates to that.
Hmm.
Um, okay, what am I missing here, or is this complete? Because I my gut's kind of telling me it feels complete.
I think it's just for me, the way we do it is like knowing what you're doing when. So like
Mhm.
how many days are you posting? When is it going to be those carousels of photos with a story written on top of them? When is it going to be educational content? And basically creating a schedule for yourself that is sustainable.
Excellent. There's my action item for today. Have that done today. Of a schedule. I think that'd be really useful for me to have. Cool. I'm gonna pull up my notes here just to make sure I didn't have more here. Okay. I'm looking through. That feels very good. That feels complete. We sped through that.
Mm-hmm. Faster than you thought you'd be today. Well, and I'll say for anybody watching or listening too, you already know this, so I'm not impressing it upon you, but it needs to be content they care about. Like it needs to be things that are interesting to them and not just like, here's a quote by somebody, you know. So
Yeah.
something that's already going to engage them.
I've done that pre-pandemic. You scroll all
Mhm.
the way back to the beginning of my Instagram, and that's
Yeah.
how it started. And it's just, yeah, it just doesn't work anymore, right? Instagram has
Mm.
changed so much.
Yeah. Yeah. They were pretty hot back in like 2019, but those quotes.
I think that's what I'm having trouble reconciling is keeping up with the changes, and I'm not active on Instagram. So every time I try to go back to it, I get completely overwhelmed because it's
Mm.
changing so fast, and
Yeah.
it's just hard to relearn everything.
Hmm.
And I know I have permission to not be on Instagram.
Hmm.
As to anyone listening, you don't have to be.
Nope.
Doing any marketing strategy that doesn't feel aligned. This feels aligned. This feels like a great opportunity for me. I want to be there. I just get completely overwhelmed every time I jump back in.
Hmm.
And it's not the content creation itself, of the video making or the being in on the camera. It's the, what the heck do I even have to say?
Hmm.
And how do you say it? Because there's the business advice, right, of being specific and focusing on a specialty. And then there's competing advice out there now that everything's becoming more relational. So just be yourself and
Hmm.
do everything. And that feels
Right.
too loosey-goosey.
And then there's also the counter argument that I'm hearing of like people don't care who you are. Like you could be great, but that doesn't mean they're going to pay you. Basically, of like stop being so relatable. Nobody pays relatable. So it's like a big ultimately like when everything is saying the opposite from one another, I would know what you're going to post before you open up the app. Like go ahead and like I batch it. I do a whole month at a time where I like write out all of my social. I record all my social another day, or
Mhm.
days, and then I post it and like or schedule it all out. I don't want you to try to get ideas from social if it sucks you down a rabbit hole
Yeah.
because it's all going to say different stuff anyway. Like offer good, solid entertainment and education.
Excellent. That's really helpful. And yeah, I get sucked down the rabbit hole. Save a bunch of videos that are inspiring, some ideas, and then I don't know where they are in my save folder somewhere, but like, should
Yeah.
I look back at it? No, sucked
Yeah.
down the rabbit hole.
And like you could look at your saved folder and be like, oh yeah, that's a good one, and just stitch it instead of
Hmm.
like having to recreate it or say your own version of it. Um, but if you just stitch it, then boom, one's done.
That's excellent advice. All right. I feel like I've got a wrapped up neat package of a niche and 5 marketing strategies. I'm gonna go against the rules here and
Do
have
it.
a 6th one.
Yeah.
Once my Instagram has enough posts, I'm also gonna run some ads on Instagram.
Hmm.
Oh, look, you can see the workers
Window washer.
going
Yeah.
up.
Hey.
Um, uh, it feels neatly that where were we? It feels neatly wrapped up. It feels like I've got a solid plan.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you're gonna
and
go rogue and have a number 6.
yeah,
Okay, let's hear it.
yeah. That's the Instagram ads. I'm gonna run that.
Okay.
I feel like it would be a really good idea to do the Instagram ads. Once my Instagram's once I've been consistent for a bit.
Hmm. What is
Um,
your plan for Instagram ads?
Um, have a little carousel slide. First one just sort of like a face. I've run it before. Back when I wasn't consistent, I tried it just to kind of see what would happen. And I actually got some good data from it. People DMing and stuff. Nothing turned into a consultation. Oh no, wait, I did have one consultation, but wasn't a fit. But yeah, there's just a little carousel. It's like your photo, then the second one, specialties, and then the third one, reach out for a free consultation.
Mhm.
And just have it pinned up there as well, so that when people come to the page, it's also my intro to the page of what I offer.
Mhm.
So I'll probably do that again,
Mhm.
see what happens, and fix off of make new ads off of that data.
Mhm. Okay.
Kind of that learn, do, implement what you
Mhm.
learned.
Yeah. And I would recommend having it punchy, like instead of being like, professionals with, struggling with anxiety. Like I work with professionals with performance anxiety dash and on the same slide. The boardroom kind, not the not the bedroom kind. I think that's going to get a lot more interest.
Yeah.
Um, the one you had, or the people who DM'd and the one that you did a consultation with, what made them not good fits or not follow through? Like what information did you glean from that?
They were wanting to use insurance. They weren't looking for full fee private pay. And I was off insurance at that time. So that was the first big point. Um,
Mhm.
and they were younger and wanted help from their parents and had to ask permission, and they weren't really in the professional world at the moment.
Mhm.
So there were just several, and it was someone who is within the niche as far as one of the symptoms. It was panic. I don't want to like provide too much information, right?
Right, of course, of
Um,
course.
but panic, I think, is probably general enough that I can say.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so they weren't a professional at the time, and looking to sort of work on that stuff, and so it just wasn't necessarily an ideal client.
Yeah, yeah. So it's looking at rather than running the same one, looking
Yep.
at like what you can tweak in this one to call in somebody who's already in the boardroom
Yeah.
and somebody who might be more easily able to do full fee.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Get that spicy content there. I think will definitely help.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think I have anything left, Allison. It feels
Cool.
clear. Feels like the
Yep.
work was. I came in not sure, and I think I needed that outside opinion,
Hmm.
that Allison honesty.
I'll always bring it.
So I really don't think I have anything else.
All righty. Cool. Well,
I
it's good to
feel
see you.
I feel good. It was really good to see you. And hopefully I'll be back on Instagram and see you some more.
Sounds good. I like it.
Yeah, I'll give you I'll say that's the end. That's all I got.
All righty.
Okay.
Well,
Allison,
until the
thank you
next
for
time
your
I see
time,
you.
as
Of
always.
course. Happy to do it. I love it.
All
All right.
right. Have a good
You too.
see
Bye.
you. Bye.